Hello and welcome to the Midday Update. These are the top headlines from our newsroom today. Expats can now continue to own properties even after leaving Oman. Vaccination begins for over 17,000 students in the country. Penalty for abusive writing spreading offensive rumors. Denying base to US for taking action against Afghanistan led to cricket tour cancellations, alleges Pakistan. Australia seeks COVID vaccine approval for children as young as 5. Omani Cricket Club gears up to host World Cup qualifiers. Oman Hockey Association to resume local matches. These were the top headlines from our newsroom today. Let's see how the weather condition looks like in the Sultanate in our weather update. Thunderstorms accompanied by downward wind may cause flash floods at Al Hajar Mountains and adjoining areas during the afternoon and evening, Oman Meteorology said this morning. According to their daily weather forecast, it said that the weather will be partly cloudy to cloudy skies along the coastal areas of the Far Governorate and the adjoining mountains, along with chances of isolated rainfall. There will be mainly clear skies over rest of Oman, along with chances of convective cloud formation and thunderstorms associated with fresh downward wind and may cause flash floods over Al Hajar Mountains and adjoining areas towards the afternoon and evening. Late night to early morning low-level clouds or fog patches are expected over the coastal areas of Arabian Sea, the meteorology added. With that, let's see how the weather looks like in rest of the governorates. Muscat will be sunny with temperatures between 29 to 36 degrees Celsius. Musanna will also be sunny with temperatures between 28 to 36 degrees Celsius. North Al Batna will also be sunny with temperatures between 29 to 36 degrees Celsius. South Al Batna will also be sunny with temperatures between 25 to 38 degrees Celsius. Al Buremi will also be sunny with temperatures between 27 to 39 degrees Celsius. Al Dahra will also be sunny with temperatures between 25 to 40 degrees Celsius. Al Dakhliya will be partly cloudy with temperatures between 24 to 35 degrees Celsius. North Sharqiya will also be partly cloudy with temperatures between 23 to 41 degrees Celsius. South Sharqiya will be sunny with temperatures between 29 to 35 degrees Celsius. Al Wusta will also be sunny with temperatures between 24 to 40 degrees Celsius. Lastly, the Far will be partly cloudy with temperatures between 26 to 30 degrees Celsius. Welcome back to TTV. You're watching Midday Update. Now, before we start with the local news for today, let's see how the COVID-19 situation looks like in the Sultanate. The Ministry of Health has registered once again no deaths today, marking the 5th consecutive day of no deaths in the Sultanate. With this, the total deaths remain at 4,093. The Ministry of Health has also announced the registration of 22 new coronavirus cases in Oman today. With this, the total confirmed of cases now stands at 303,512, which also includes total recoveries of 294,742, as well as total deaths of 4,093. In the last 24 hours, the health officials have also received 388 recoveries. The Ministry of Health has urged all the citizens and residents living in the Sultanate to follow the precautionary measures issued by the Ministry of Health and the Supreme Committee. And now from a local desk. Expatriates who buy flats under Oman's Userfruct scheme will continue to own their properties even after they leave the country, the Ministry of Housing and Urban Planning in the country has said. In fact, according to the statement issued by them, it said that if the expatriates wish, they can also rent the properties through a mediation office, a law firm, a realtor, or the like to manage, rent, or even oversee their assets, irrespective of whether they are within or outside Oman. To know more in detail about the Userfruct scheme, we have Mr. Fahad Al Ismaili, CEO of Tibian Properties, joining us today. Thank you so much, Mr. Fahad, for joining us today and taking up time. We know that you're not in the country, and yet you have made time for us, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Madiha, for today, and anything that has to do with the real estate industry in Oman, we will always support it, and we will always be there to share knowledge and to make sure that everyone save his investments and do the right move when it comes to state investment in Oman.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Fahad. Now, if you remember that last year, we already spoke about the Userfruct scheme, and you told us a lot about the investment opportunities, the conditions. Would you briefly explain to our viewers again, what exactly is this scheme about?
Yeah. Well, the scheme of Userfruct ownership for real estate in Oman is aligned with the midterm financial plan of the government of the Sultanate of Oman, where the midterm financial plan, which is called Tawazun, is one of its article about the real estate promotions and real estate incentives that is going to help the economy and to diversify also investments and create good foreign ties when it comes to real estate. And one of those incentives is allowing for non-Omanis, especially or non-GCC nationals, to own real estate in Oman on a Userfruct structure, which is extending to 50 years, and it could be extended further to 99 years. And there are a lot of points and rules that comes along with it to govern the and to make sure that the rights and the investments of those investors are safe hands.
Mr. Fahad, how different is the new decision issued by the Ministry of Housing this time compared to what we discussed last year? The new change that I am understanding is that now, even when the expats leave the country, they can still continue to own the property that they have in the Sultanate.
Yes. Well, Madiha, there is no difference. It's the same, exactly the same rule. The only thing which happened right now is the Ministry of Housing and Urban Planning expanded and amplified the rule to make it understandable in a way. They have issued a nice booklet which explains exactly how this is being done, because there was a lot of confusion and maybe many people did not know, and there was a lot of also maybe wrong explanation from the real estate agents about works. Therefore, as you know, the government is always advanced in sharing the best practices and making sure that everyone knows and gets the right information. Therefore, this was issued as an explanation and as a guidance to those people who would like to invest. But it's nothing new. It is just an expansion of the rule in terms of explanation. That's
right.
It.
Right. Thank you so much for clarifying that out for us and our viewers too. Now, I remember you said earlier that there are some rules and conditions. Talking about that, Mr. Fahad, what are, first of all, the areas of investment for the non-GCC and, of course, the expats who would like to invest in the country?
Yes. The locations, currently, this applies only to the government of Muscat. It doesn't apply to our governance. And of course, this will be a starting point, and then later on it will move to other places. In Muscat itself, the Ministry of Housing and Urban Planning some areas which are not purely residential areas, but it is more of a commercial residential. It's a business areas, commercial areas where Expat communities and non-Omani communities are to like to stay there more than staying in the purely residential areas where many locals are having their local communities and neighborhoods and all that. So this rule also looked into maintaining the demography of the country and making sure that every community receives its very healthy way of living, and also gets what they want in terms of the needs of that community type. So in Muscat, are in Bosher, in Amarat, in Ghala, and also it went further into selection of the blocks and the zones. Therefore, I would really recommend any non-Omani who would like to invest on a Userfruct basis is to make sure to go through the list. It's a long list. It will be difficult for me to memorize it and speak it out right now, but it is there in the article, it is there in the booklet, it is available in all the social media platforms of Ministry of Housing and Urban Planning, and they can use it as a reference to make sure they are not taken into any place which is not allowed to have this Userfruct ownership.
Right. Mr. Fahad, one more thing. I remember that there are certain conditions too for non-Omanis and non-GCC residents to actually invest into property. One you already mentioned about the designated areas in Governorate of Muscat. But in terms of buying properties, what I know is that they can only buy flats in Muscat. You cannot get a villa. And even for flats, there are certain conditions that needs to be fulfilled.
Yeah. As you know, Madiha, that anything new, we need to test the water before penetrating into it aggressively. There should always be plan B to everything that we do, and I really second the government decision about taking this very careful step, because it's a new thing that we are entering to. The conditions of what has to be a ready built building. It shouldn't be an off-plan sale. This is something, there's a big misconfusion over here. Off-plan sales is not allowed in the Userfruct purchases, in the user. It has to be which has already been, it has a building completion certificate issued, and then you can invest in that building. Now, that building also should be not less than 4-story building of residential floors, and you cannot invest in a single bedroom apartment. It has to be a 2-bedroom apartment as minimum. And the ticket size is not less than 35,000 Omani riyals. That is the minimum ticket size. And also, only 50% of those units will be allowed for non-Omani ownership, and out of that 50%, each nationality shouldn't exceed of that 50%.
I'm sorry, Mr. Fahad, how many percentage did you say?
50% of the whole units will be for non-Omani ownership, and out of that 50%, 2% could go to one nationality.
20%?
Yeah, 20% of the 50%.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So in a way that the building 50% can be occupied by the expats, and out of that 50%, only one nationality a nationality cannot exceed more than 20%.
Yeah, I say the same nationality cannot exceed more than 20%.
Okay. So these are some of the conditions that you said that have been mentioned by the Ministry of Housing.
Sure.
You mentioned something about the ticket price, Mr. Fahad, 35,000 riyals. I was just going to ask you, what is the minimum cost for an investment, and how much can it go to?
Well, as I said, now every property and every project will have its benefits. It will have its facilities. You cannot give the same price for every project. Some projects will have things like swimming pools, car parks, children play area, central cooling system, central gas system. Some buildings will not have those, so it depends on the property itself and the amenities itself. And accordingly, every developer will know how to price their units. However, the minimum ticket size in order to obtain that Userfruct status is 35.
So for this 35,000 riyal, Mr. Fahad, do you have to pay upfront 35,000 or you can have an installment plan?
Well, the explanation of the rule also allows the people and the non-Oman to obtain banks, so they can finance those units and get the necessary financial financial schemes from the local banks, and
right.
Purchase it on an installment basis with the banks.
Right. Now, Mr. Fahad, when it comes to transferring, the property, like for example, if my father has bought a property in Oman and he would like to, in Muscat, and he would like to transfer it to me or to my siblings or to, his heir, how difficult would it be or how complicated would it be? And also, how is it going to be like when somebody wishes to sell their property?
Well, the rule and the law states that you cannot sell the property before 4 years from the date of ownership. So basically, you have to own the property for a minimum 4 years before you are able to transfer the deedship to another person. Now, in order to own the property as well, you need to be resident in Oman for 2 years, and then you are allowed to purchase on this Userfruct status. And after 4 years, you can transfer. Now, if anything happens to the owner in terms of leaving the country, losing his job, or death, or anything, a request letter should be submitted to the Ministry of Housing and Urban Planning, and an NOC for that will be granted immediately without any delay, because that is a unpredicted condition. Now, expatriate, of course, the Userfruct agreement is 50 years and it could be extended to 99 years. So let's say, for example, someone who's living in Oman for 2 years and then he bought a property on this scheme and he left the country, that's okay, that's no problem. He can still keep the ownership of that. And for the remaining 50 to 99 years. So, there's no harm in the country and keeping the property under the same Userfruct agreement. The most important, after 50 years or 99 years, that unit will go back to the Owners Association, and it will follow the Owners Association guidelines on how to receive the in terms of cash, in terms of another unit in another development, etc., etc.
Right. My last question for you, Mr. Fahad, is that when we talk about Userfruct scheme and we talk about this 50 and 99 years of ownership, it does not mean that people who invest here and buy property will automatically get residency.
Yes, the residency is granted people who buy in the freehold properties. Okay. In Oman, we do have two types of properties which are eligible for the non-GCC purchase. One is the freehold, the other is the Userfruct, which is the leasehold. Now, when if a person wants to get the residency, he or she should buy in the freehold properties. Those freeholds are mainly located in the ITC development, which are the integrated tourism complexes, and the freehold are located in the non-ITC development. So it all depends on the investor. If residency is something so important to him, then he should go to the freehold properties. If the residency is not that important and the reason to purchase is only to to live in an owned unit during his stay in Oman. Then that person can be leasehold properties. However, Badiha, I would like to just make sure that this is very clear that this is a first step towards opening the doors for foreign investors and foreign ownership. And I am sure that by time the government is going to revisit and see how they can enhance and develop this rule further. And I'm sure in the coming years, things will be maybe better, things will be more advanced, and people should look into Oman as a destination for investment.
Thank you so much, Mr. Fahad, for clarifying that last point about the residency. It really, helps our viewers and us to understand that these are two different things that you rightly pointed out. One is a freehold and one is this under this scheme. So thank you so much for clarifying that out. And of course, like you said, that things are easily, opening to the world here in Oman with the COVID cases coming down and with the vaccination rollout still taking place across the country. So hopefully things are going to get better soon. It already has started to look a bit better, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, it is, and things are better, and we are looking towards a very advanced future and prosperity, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you so much, Mr. Fahad, once again for taking up time and joining us today.
You're welcome, and thank you for hosting me. Thank you, Madina.
Thank you so much. It's time for us to take a quick commercial break, but stay tuned as we have more updates coming your way from a local desk. Welcome back to TTV. You're watching Midday Update, and now continuing with our local stories for today. More than 17,000 students distributed over 69 locations in the At-Tahira Governorate started getting their COVID-19 vaccination as part of the campaign targeting those aged between 12 and 17 years. In conjunction with the decision to return students to schools, the General Directorate of Health Services in At-Tahira Governorate began preparing to start the vaccination campaign for the first and second doses for those students aged 12 to 17 years, the Directorate General of Health Services in At-Tahira Governorate said earlier today. The number of the target group is approximately 17,539 students, and 11 teams were formed. It includes school health nurses and data entry personnel distributed over 69 locations in the At-Tahira Governorate, which include public and private schools, the Islamic Institute, and the Indian School. The Public Prosecution Department has issued a statement outlining penalties awarded to people found guilty of abusive writings or spreading offensive rumors or publishing news attributing criminal acts to certain individuals or establishments. The statement reads as follows. In light of findings from social communication platforms and given the steady rise in the rate of abusive writings, offensive rumors, and attribution of criminal acts to certain individuals or establishments, and since circulating matters via social communication platforms is not an official method of reporting and may negatively impact investigations, the Public Prosecution Department hereby incriminates the publishing of abusive or offensive news aimed to provoke public opinion. It asserts that such behavior is considered a crime that deserves imprisonment for a maximum of 3 years and a fine of 3,000 Omani riyals. The Public Prosecution Department affirms that it will take legal action against all those who get involved in abusive writings or even rumors, and those who promote, circulate, or instigate or help in such criminal acts, irrespective of their forms and types. The legal action will be undertaken in accordance with the current laws and legal systems in the Sultanate. Once again, it's time for a quick commercial break, but stay tuned as we have more updates coming your way from International Desk. Welcome back to TV. You're watching Midday Update. And now from International Desk. Pakistan's Information Minister Fawad Chaudhry on Tuesday said Pakistan is paying the price for its stance of absolutely not with regards to the recent tour cancellations by the New Zealand and England cricket boards. The England and Wales Cricket Board, commonly known as ECB, announced on Monday that it was withdrawing both its men's and women's team from their Pakistan tour scheduled for next month. The ECB's decision came 3 days after New Zealand abandoned their tour of Pakistan, citing a security threat minutes before the first one-day international match that was scheduled to start at the Rawalpindi Cricket Stadium on Friday. Addressing a post-cabinet meeting press conference, Chaudhry termed the entire situation unfortunate. He said that if nations want to hold their head high, then there is a price for that and nations pay that. I think Pakistan is ready to deal with any challenge. If you say absolutely not, then it has a price and you have to pay it, the Information Minister added. He was apparently referring to Prime Minister Imran Khan's comments in June when he categorically said that Pakistan would absolutely not allow any bases and use of its territory to the US for any sort of action inside Afghanistan. Regarding the fallout from the tour cancellations, Chaudhry reiterated his comments on Twitter from earlier in the day and said Pakistan television had incurred losses of 200 million to 250 million Pakistani rupees in the entire affair, and lawyers were being consulted regarding any legal action that can be pursued against the two boards. The Australian government has urged Pfizer to seek approval to administer its coronavirus vaccine to children as young as 5. Greg Hunt, the Minister of Health, on Tuesday encouraged Pfizer to have its COVID-19 vaccine approved for children aged 5 to 11 in Australia after trials found the vaccine developed antibodies at levels equally as strong as teenagers and young adults. I encourage and invite Pfizer to submit a parallel application to the Therapeutic Goods Administration for Australian regulatory approval at the earliest possible time. Should the Therapeutic Goods Administration find that the vaccine is safe and effective for children under 12 years of age, the Australian government is well placed to deliver this vaccine to this expanded age cohort, he wrote in a letter to Pfizer's Australia and New Zealand Managing Director Anne Harris. Australia on Wednesday reported 1,681 new locally acquired cases of COVID-19, of which 17 were from the Australian Capital Territory. The potential risk from the cases announced overnight, particularly the number that has been in the community, is of concern, he told reporters. Once again, it's time for a quick commercial break, but stay tuned as we have more updates from a sports desk. Welcome back, and now from a sports desk. The Omani Cricket Club, commonly known as OCC, announced its full readiness to receive the participants of the T20 Cricket World Cup qualifiers. The event will be hosted by the Sultanate from 17 to 21st October 2021 at the club stadiums in the Wilayat of Al Amirat. Pankaj Khimji, chairman of Oman Cricket Club, said in a statement to Oman News Agency that the club has completed all preparations to host these qualifiers, in which the Sultanate, the Republic of Bangladesh, Scotland and PNG will take part. He also asserted that Oman's national cricket team is working hard to win one of the two posts to qualify for the second round that will take place in the United Arab Emirates after the end of the qualifiers. He further explained that the Sultanate's hosting of these qualifiers has many economic and tourism advantages, as some sectors will directly benefit from the event, such as hospitality, transportation, aviation, and healthcare. Oman Hockey Association will resume the local competitions through the 51st His Majesty Sultan Haytham bin Tariq Hockey Cup, which will be held in November and December 2021. A statement issued online by Oman News Agency said, Oman Hockey Association announces the resumption of local competitions through the 51st His Majesty's Cup for Hockey, which will be held during the months of November and December. The statement also added that the Federation approved the executive office of the board and reformed the committees according to the statute of the Federation. The board's office was formed by Dr. Marwan bin Juma al-Juma, Madian bin Ahmed Beit Habza, Dr. Khamis bin Salim al-Rahbi, Zuhair bin Muhammad al-Ajmi, and Abdullah al-Ubaidani. With this news, we have come to the end of the episode for today. Stay tuned as we'll be coming back again tomorrow with more local updates and news your way. Keep watching TTV.
You've just heard the live feed from the TTV studios on TFM 95.4. Let's talk.